but simply your reality can shift in a moment. Every moment is a new moment. And when you are deeply connected to your highest timeline, to your highest desire, when you are being the creator of that code, you can shift really quickly. Welcome to the Miracle Frequency Podcast. Let's talk about false constructs and what they are. So there are a number of major false constructs that most people live by. But today I really just want to talk about the 4 biggest ones that are probably holding you back. And when I say false constructs, a false construct is simply a belief that you have about how something works on our planet in this universe that is fundamentally incorrect. Okay, that is fundamentally incorrect. And so when you live by this rule, right, this construct, this rule, you are limiting yourself in such a profound way. So the first one is time. Okay, time. Time is an illusion. The only moment is now. And all moments, what you call past, present, future, they all exist right now. Now, I know that's hard to get your head around, right? But what we need to understand is that we live in an energetic world, a planet that is constructed through frequency, through energy. It is like the observer effect shows us, things only turn to form when they are witnessed. So there are multiple, if you want to call it worlds, realities, fields, all existing all at once. Where your awareness is what you are experiencing. But as you shift your awareness, like with the double slit experiment, as the observation changes, so too does the reality. Okay, so as your awareness shifts, so too does the physical realm. That's something we can go into a lot deeper. But time is an illusion. So how that really affects people is that they believe things need to take a certain amount of time, right? Because time seems limited, right? So we all have on average, I don't know what the average age is, say 85 years or 90 years on this planet, whatever it is. So people feel like perhaps time is running out. Perhaps I'm too old for that or too young for that. Perhaps it will take too much time to create whatever it is that you want. You know, if you are, say, in your 50s, you might believe that you've sort of missed the boat, right? That somehow time is running out for you. It's too late to, I don't know, have the love that you want, have the wealth that you want, have the fun or the life or the body that you want, right? There's this illusion of time that you feel constricts you. And like I said, the other big part of this is that there's this what we call psychological time, which is living in this construct of seeing everything as separate outside of this present moment. Very focused on a future, right? A future is just a mind-made construct of a moment that you haven't experienced yet. And the past is simply a memory of a moment that you have experienced. However, we can actually change the memories of our past. And of course, we can absolutely change any moments that we are yet to experience right here in this present moment. And this is the key, is that when you are deeply present, you realize that this is the only moment you ever have in your life. This is as good as it gets, right? This is as good as it gets. Now, if you're sitting in a place where you don't love your life for whatever reason, that might hurt, right? That might hurt. That might be like, surely this isn't as good as it gets. But when I say that, what I mean is that this is the only moment you have. And so if you want to be experiencing things in a different way, it all happens now. It all happens now, right? The more joy, the more fulfillment, the more focus you have on, like I said, your highest timeline now, the more you will experience in this physical realm. But time as we see it is an illusion. Psychological time, feeling like time somehow has a power of you, like things need to take a certain amount of time. So I always like to use the example of business. I have worked with many, many women who were at a certain point in their income and wanted to get to another point in their income. And, they had these beliefs about how much time it needed to take, that things needed to happen gradually, right? They needed to, so for example, I've worked with coaches that have been at 10K months, that have wanted to scale to 30, 50K months, for example, and believing that it needed to take a certain period of time because they had beliefs about what would need to happen. It would need to happen gradually. It couldn't happen all at once. Believing somehow that time has this power over us. But simply, your reality can shift in a moment. Every moment is a new moment. And when you are deeply connected to your highest timeline, to your highest desire, when you are being the creator of that code, you can shift really quickly. And it's how I've had clients shift from 10K to 30K months in as little as 30 days, okay? So all it was some energetic shifts. What I want you to understand, when I say energetic shifts, some people might think surely there was action to take. Yes, people took action, right? But so what happens is when you shift your frequency, when you shift your focus and your energy, your actions naturally shift as well. Okay, so in a very simple way to explain that, if I believe Harrison Ford said this in a really succinct way, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. Okay, so I've shared this many times on the podcast, but I used to believe that I couldn't run, that I wasn't a runner. And so anytime I'd try and do some fitness that involved running, I'd run a couple hundred meters and then I'd be puffed out and I'd have to walk and, I wasn't a runner. That was a story I told myself. And so when I shifted that story and let that go and went, of course I can run. I've got legs, I can walk, I can move them a bit faster, of course I can run. Then I ran half marathons, which are 21 kilometers, I don't know what it is in miles, within 6 months of not being a runner to running half marathons, right? So which is 2 hours of running essentially. So my point is that it's not about like, when we shift our energy, the actions shift because our belief and our knowing shifts. So we show up differently, right? We show up differently. But it's not time that's the factor. It's changing those core beliefs and frequency that's getting in your way. If you believed that it was completely possible to go from a 10K month to a 100K month, then it could happen, right? It is the belief that it can't. It is the belief about time as to what needs to happen, what needs to occur that keeps you trapped. But time is an illusion. All moments are now. What we're doing is we're accessing different levels of frequency which are creating the next moment. Okay, your life, your reality can shift in one moment. One thought, one powerful thought can shift your entire reality, right? One powerful thought can shift your entire reality. It's not about time, okay? All moments exist now. And so when you get to this place where you are more deeply present and you are open to the flow of life, you're tapped into consciousness, you really allow yourself to channel. And it's something everyone can do. Really listen to the thoughts that drop in, the knowings that drop in. You'll realize, and what will start to happen is you'll start to tap into knowings about things, knowings about events that haven't occurred yet, that what we might call future events, but you have a knowing and a sensing about what they are and how they're going to unfold. And all that is that the veil has become thinner and you are able to transcend time and tap into an energetic moment you haven't experienced yet. So time is the biggest construct. Well, time is one of the very big constructs. Probably the biggest one for people is how, right? The illusion of how, or the construct of how is it going to happen? But your mind, your ego, it believes it needs to know the steps in order for something to happen. Okay. It is not, your ego or your mind does not feel safe in the unknown. Your mind is built on logic. It's built on trying to figure things out. It wants a resolution. It feels, because your mind doesn't exist. When you are deeply present with awareness, the mind goes quiet. Okay, and so the mind basically ceases to exist in those moments. The overactive mind, the personal mind, the egoic mind. So the how, trying to figure out the how. Most people don't believe that they can have certain things or achieve certain things because they are fixated on the how. So for example, if you are on minimum wage and you want to be a multi-millionaire, most people in that circumstance won't believe it's possible because they can't see the path there. They can't see the how. Okay, but the how is not your work. It's not the work of the mind. The how is the work of the quantum field, consciousness, God, your higher self. And all things, all potentials, there are infinite potentials. Anything can materialize, right? You can shift into the realm in which it is materialized. So it's not like the world's shifting, it's you're shifting sort of between worlds, between realities, between frequencies. So what appears in your physical reality changes. But the how is not your work. The how is not your work. When you try and figure it out, you slow yourself down. And on the last podcast, I shared how I connected with someone who, and we're talking about starting a new school in Australia. Now, what I want you to understand is that I had this thought, this powerful thought. I am not going to send my daughter to a traditional school. I want something better for her, something more expansive, something similar to those alpha schools that I'd found in America. That's what I deeply desire. And I felt it and I knew it with conviction. I have no idea about the education system. Like, I have no idea about schools. I have no idea about how to go about any of that. And sometimes, actually, I will add this little, this kind of like little side note, is that sometimes when you have no idea how you're going to create something and you focus on it with intention and feeling, in some ways it's easier to create because you're actually not trying to figure out the how. Okay, my mind, if I had tried to sit there and go, how would I bring a school to Australia? I would get lost in limiting beliefs and lost in these constructs because my mind doesn't have the capabilities to work it out, right? It doesn't know that information. I've not experienced it before. So here's what I want you to understand is when you let your mind lead, it's creating based on the past, what you know, what you've experienced, what you've learned. When you want to tap into expansion and magic, it is absolutely letting your consciousness, the quantum field, God lead. Okay. So when I had that thought, I really want this, I want a better experience for my daughter. I really want her to go to a school like that. It was a powerful intention. And then how I live my life is I trust the pulls. I stumbled on an email that led me down a little rabbit hole and I found this person on LinkedIn and I reached out. Now, who am I to sort of reach out to someone randomly and talk about bringing a new school to Australia, right? We need to let go of all those egoic thoughts. And that's what I'm practiced at doing, is letting go of all those egoic thoughts so that I just trust those pulls. I'm going to send someone a message on LinkedIn. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're not going to respond, right? Who cares? But it's going to lead, it's already led to some magic unfolding. It's started momentum. So the how is the biggest construct, believing that you need to figure it out. That holds you back. Let go of needing to figure it out. That's your work. Letting go of needing to figure it out. I don't want you to figure anything out. I want you to trust that you will be guided to the solutions, right? You will be guided to the steps, and often they will look nothing like what you expect. Just enjoy the journey. It's all a journey. There is no destination. I guess this is maybe one of the, a bit of a side construct. There is no destination. The thing you think you're trying to achieve, if you do achieve it, there'll be another thing, right? right? There is no destination. Your life experience on this planet is all just the journey. So enjoy the journey, right? The how. So the how is a huge illusion. Worthiness. This is one of the biggest false constructs. And certainly when I did a lot more one-on-one coaching, this was something that would come up a lot. Not feeling enough, not feeling worthy of whatever it is, whether it's wealth, love, abundance, success. I don't know. It comes up for people in so many ways. Somehow not feeling worthy of what you want. Perhaps you never finished school and you don't feel educated. And so therefore you don't feel worthy of success because you have learned the false construct. And let me be clear, this is a false construct that somehow your worthiness or your ability to create success is based on education. Education can give you some tools, sure. But there are plenty of millionaires, billionaires that never finished high school or college, right? In fact, I want to share a really short story about Steve Jobs. Someone sent me this video. Steve Jobs was giving a speech at Stanford University, and he spoke about never having finished college. But what he spoke about, he knew, maybe he didn't know, but he demonstrated how he surrendered to the flow of life and how his higher self or God was leading the way. And so I just want to share two short things. He dropped out of college, but what he did instead was he allowed himself to just choose subjects that lit him up, that he enjoyed, that he had some curiosity about. Not to finish any degree, not to prove anything, just for the joy of it, just for the fun of it. So one of the things that he did was calligraphy, right? He studied calligraphy in college. Now, that was fun. He enjoyed that. He had an interest in that. Fast forward however many years, right? However many years when they were programming the first Apple computer and building fonts into it. And it was his knowledge of calligraphy that helped him create this beautiful interface and the beautiful fonts, right? He had not known that education in that part of his life was going to lead to that moment, right? To that moment. Then there was another moment where he was fired from Apple. And in actual fact, what he reflected on was that because Apple had been built up and it was very, very successful. And once he was fired, there was a board, and once he was fired or let go, he then had this freedom of creation, not the pressure of success, but this freedom of creation that let him create Pixar and another company, and ultimately led him back to Apple. But the thing is that moment gave him freedom and creation and expression, and he was still successful, right? But it wasn't him choosing those things. Those things were sort of forced upon him, but it led to a beautiful life. But coming back to worth, so he never finished college. That was my point. But worth doesn't exist, right? Worth is a judgment. It's a learned judgment. Society has taught you that you need to do certain things in order to be enough or to be worthy. So maybe, like I said, you might feel you're not intelligent enough or smart enough or whatever it is, enough to be successful, to be wealthy, whatever those things are. That is all an illusion. That is all an illusion, right? We are all consciousness. We are all spiritual beings having an experience, and every single one is perfect in their own way. There's nothing you have to prove. You don't need to be like anyone else. You don't need to have finished school or college. You don't need to have any certain things in order to be worthy of anything. You just need to tap into that frequency of that ultimate desire and allow yourself to be led. When I was probably up until my early 30s, up until I had this defining moment where really, I didn't feel worthy of love, basically. That's the long and the short of it. I was dating all these guys, and there was a part of me that just did not feel, I didn't really call it worthiness, but that's what it was. And I had this little conversation with myself, and I'm like, why don't you believe that you can have a loving partner? Why is everyone else allowed to have a loving partner, but somehow there's some block that you don't believe that you can have that too, right? And I had this little talk to myself. It's like, come on, you're intelligent, you're smart, you're attractive, you're funny, like you're a good person. Why would you be the only person on the planet that couldn't have a loving, meaningful relationship? And so I dropped that story. I decided, of course, I was available for that. I was worthy of that. But what I want you to understand is that none of that was true, right? None of it's ever true. It's just that for whatever reason, society conditioned you to believe that you weren't good enough or worthy in some way. But who's deciding that? It is someone else's judgment, right? It is another human on this planet that's created a set of rules. None of that is real. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are all, the word worthiness the concept of worthiness doesn't even exist. There is no worth. You are here, you exist, you are an infinite creator. That is truth. And the last one I just want to talk about quickly is separation, right? Separation, feeling separate from something. So something perhaps being on a pedestal, not being available, which kind of relates a lot to worthiness. Often it can be, like I said, success, money, feeling like, let's say you're at 10K months and you really want 100K months, feeling like they are separate from you, that somehow you need to earn, prove, work towards that goal, right? Maybe it's a person that you believe is on some sort of pedestal that's separate to you. We are all one. We are all consciousness. We are all connected. There is no separation, right? Connect to the code. It is about realizing that you create the code, you connect the frequency, the physical matter will come into your realm. Okay, that's always the last part. Realizing that you absolutely create your reality through that frequency and knowing that nothing is off limits. Nothing is off limits. Anything that feels out of reach, too far away, somehow not available to you, it is all an illusion. We are all deeply connected. We are all deeply connected. And that's why I know this video, this podcast, wherever you're watching or listening, will reach who it needs to reach when it needs to reach them. Okay? I'm not obsessed with numbers. I'm not obsessed with that sort of any sort of validation. I allow the words to flow through and I trust that whoever it needs to reach, it reaches. So those are the 4 biggest false constructs that keep people limited, that keep them playing small. Time, how, worthiness, separation. There are others. I've got a program called quantum something. I don't even remember the name of it. Oh my God. Anyway, I'll put the link below, but it goes through all of these in a deep way. And if you want to know more and dive deeper. But those are the 4 things that I really want you to understand, that once you start to dissolve those and let go of those, you become so powerful, so limitless. You are limitless anyway, but your mind and these false constructs have programmed you to believe that you're not. So trust. It's about that deeper trust, that deeper self-trust, knowing that you truly are and allowing these things to dissolve. Now, something that I have just done is just opened up some one-on-one spots. So if you do want to go deeper into this, I've got a one-on-one transformational program that really helps you clear all these blocks, rewrites the code so that you can be the limitless creator, because it is these pieces at a subconscious level that block you, and we can rewrite those. So the link will be below. Like I said, there's only a limited number of spots. So if they're available, you can message me. I will talk to you soon.